Hey, how's it going, captains? Admiral Tori here, and welcome aboard for another World of Warships video on my channel. In today's video, I am going to discuss about the upcoming patch, which is 0.8.0, the CV rework. This is going to be the largest patch to the game, in my opinion, since the launch of World of Warships. And the reason why is because we are talking about working with two nations, two branches, and changing them up at the same time, changing the complete paradigm of these ships. So, carriers. I played a little bit of the CV rework, the first and a little bit of the second phase of the close beta testing. And my feelings on it was, it was kind of hard to gauge if I liked it or not. But, and the reason why I say that is difficult is because we were going against bots. We weren't going against real players. And I think that's part of the reason why the few testers or the few community contributors who voiced their opinion felt that it was boring. It's because we're facing opponents who don't have any human reaction. It's just, it's a walk through apart, same formula, every bot plays the same way. So there was a very poor, false impression on how carriers would play because we haven't gotten a chance to test it, which is a big deal because the upcoming patch, they reposted on the website about the changes and that they're going to go with it, is going to hit the live server around January. Now, the first actual testing will be the beta testing, which is much more closer to the ideal situation, but still not close enough because people in the beta servers aren't your normal World of Warships players that you face in randoms. So it's hard. It's really hard to judge whether this was a good move or a bad move. And they can always roll back, of course, if it was that bad. So I felt that it was fun at times because it was a different experience. I always wanted to get a closer view of planes in action, but at the same time there was some lacking features, and of course the first phase and the second phase was bugged to the point where my CV was absolutely locked. Like, I can't control my CV, which was irritating, which also made it difficult for me to gauge the CV rework. But bugs can be always fixed, balances can't always be fixed right away. So there was two opposing forces, and one side is that people don't play CVs, but they want the CV rework to go through because it definitely reduces the influence of CV players. And the opposite end are players who prefer the RTS play style. Now, they can prefer it for many reasons, but one of the common reasons is because it gives CVs control of the map a lot more than the current rework version, which means that, as we know it in this game, is an issue when you have two CVs in one game and the opposing CV is really good while your CV is bad, leading to a landslide victory to the enemy team most of the time. Not always, but most of the time. And that was the issue. Not only that, when you have multiple squadrons, a good CV player can permanently spot your team, or your teammates' CV just can't win the air battles, or you're playing a destroyer or a ship that has crappy AA, they just fly your planes above your ship and spot you permanently, or spot your torpedoes, or torpedo you like no problem. And that was the biggest issue with the CV balance. Now, the argument was that, there's always a way to counter it. I mean, you can definitely work with it, but it requires, the problem is that it requires knowledge of that. And although as, common sense as it seems, common sense isn't always common to people, although we say it's common sense. And that is something that you have to make a compromise with. Just because it's possible to fix it, most of the time people aren't willing to take that opportunity. Like for me, I understand that when I play CVs, if I see CV planes going after me, you always want to turn into the torpedo wave, not away from it, unless you have enough time to have the torpedo planes on your stern. Most people don't know that, and they turn away from it, which gives that torpedo wave a chance to hit more torpedoes, if you understand that situation, if I'm trying to describe it. But the point is, I can't expect everyone to understand how to play the game as many people would wish to. So that is what Wargaming had to take into account. They kind of have to casualize the situation, which is bad, but also good in some ways because it makes it much more appealing to people to play this game, if I put it that way. Not everyone likes to play Counter-Strike because Counter-Strike you get punished hard, but at the same time, not everyone likes to play a very easy game. I don't know, I'm pretty sure there's plenty of casual games out there that people are just not feeling it. So Wargaming is trying to find the middle ground, and I feel that the CV rework is kind of hitting the middle ground. Now, there were... When I watch these CV rework videos or I read articles, the comments, I read through the comments. I want to know what's people's opinion. And I felt that there was plenty of comments that give misinformation. We're talking about comments that saying that the CV rework is going to make carriers overpowered, which is absolutely a lie. At the same time, there was comments that saying that the CV rework is going to make them completely useless, which is also a lie. It's hard to figure out where it is at. Like I said, the testing doesn't give you a real life situation with CVs in a randoms battle because we're going against bots. So one of the comments was, destroyers are going to be completely nerfed because CVs can do multiple runs on them. They fail the first run, they come back for the second, run, if you know how the new CV rework works. When I played the CV rework in the first phase and second phase, it was tough as shit. Man, first you gotta set up. Second, if the destroyer is maneuvering and you fly over them, you practically screwed over. You screwed up. In the old version, the current version we have in the live server before the CV rework, you can definitely cancel your attacks, but in this case, in the new CV rework, you can't cancel attack, you have to catch the destroyer off guard. So when I saw people claiming that, it's so easy for a CV to sink destroyers, man, I having a tough time sinking them. The ideal targets will be battleships for sure, and battleship players are saying that, well, since CVs can go for a second run, they can flood the first time and then wait it out on the second time. I tried doing that on the CV rework test server, and it's possible. It's certainly possible, but I don't see a player who just wants to play World of Warships will wait that hard, and it was also still difficult. At the same time, the AA got reworked. I'm not sure how the AA works now because I haven't played it in a while. So it's going to be a hit or miss. That's my prediction on this CV rework. But if CVs are underpowered, which I do project more towards because they definitely have less influence than the current CV system because it's not RTS, you can always buff it. But if something was broken, it's a lot more difficult to change that right away because it absolutely destroys the game for quite a bit. I'd rather deal with a ship that isn't good and let time do its work to buff the ship and fix it rather than sit in the game and there's something very broken in the game and half the games I play is going to be frustrating. That's for the sake of everyone, of course. So destroyers wise, when I see destroyer players saying that this is going to be absolutely nerfed to destroyers, that's false, absolutely false. Think about it. In our old version, a typical CV like a Shokaku got 6 squadrons. He can have his dive bomber squadron because he feel like the dive bombers aren't really that useful. Permanently spot you the entire game in your destroyer. Versus the current CV rework where you can only control one squadron, which means that you either attack or waste your time with spotting the destroyer unless somebody out there is going to shoot that destroyer, which is the benefit of spawning it. So it's a very pricey decision, which I personally like because there's got to be some sort of flaw to some sort of ship, right? Everyone has their own flaw and you have to make that decision to go for it or don't go for it, whether it pays off or it doesn't. So if the player is kind of willing to sacrifice its only squad to spot the destroyer for majority of the game, then go ahead. But if it's not giving you any good returns, you're going to be in the bottom leaderboard. You're better off trying to go for runs on the destroyers and just leave the area and let the destroyer go conceal again, of course. So yeah, I believe that once it hits the live server, I'm sure Wargaming will be on their feet and in high alert of monitoring the changes. Now, luckily, we are getting the refunds. Unfortunately, for people who purchase premium ships, the premium carriers, you will not get the refund that in terms of cash back. It's just the balloons, the equivalent number of doubloons that ship costs, which kind of pisses people off. But at least it's something coming out. If I were in that position, I would personally prefer cash back. But hey, this is Wargaming's decision. You can't really do much about it. In terms of the changes to the tree, I personally don't like it. I don't know why they're doing a odd and even tier. Now it's just even tiers. They said that they're going to do a secondary branch which is different from the main branch, a different flavor. I'm trying to think of what that means, but the reason why I don't like it is because it just seems out of the ordinary, and I love my Essex class carrier. I love the Hiryu. I want the Zuiho. There are the odd tier carriers that I personally like, but right now I have to wait right after the CV rework happens. I have to come out with the secondary carrier and bring it out, but it just seems unusual to see the Taiho as tier 10 when the Hakuryu is technically a Taiho but larger. I don't know what they're going to do with that. Maybe they might change it and stick a Shinonome, but I would personally prefer it was just a main line and maybe a secondary line that branch off to converted carriers with still a consistent progression from 7, 8, 9, 10. I just don't know what they're doing with that. So that was another change. I was hoping that they will allow manual AA and manual secondaries on ships. Well, manual AA for everyone and manual secondaries for carriers, because I believe in the World of Warships mobile version you get to control your secondaries. I thought that would be a cool idea for our CVs, because now that they have less opportunity to actually sink a ship right away. In a situation where most of the time CVs will engage destroyers in close range, I would personally prefer a secondary, control. Some say it would be overpowered. I don't know. You have to test it. But there was a lot of things that were going through my mind that I wish they would add to the CVs, but it looks like they haven't really changed that much aside from just trying to fix the bugs. I believe that you can't really control or see your carriers fully once your planes are in the skies. They said that they changed it. I read it, trying to understand it, didn't really quite understand. It sounds the same as before. I don't know. We're just gonna have to find out in a couple weeks or so and figure out whether this new rework is worth the time for World of Warships. I do definitely hope for the best of balance and the encouragement of more players playing carriers. Some people just, like I said, they're just bandwagging that if it's nerfing carriers and they don't play carriers, they prefer that, or they just saying things whatever they want to say. But like I said, at the end of the day, we all hope for a better game. Not just, gearing towards one certain group of people who just, enjoy playing carries and don't care about anyone else's feelings or their opinions about the game, because that's not how World of Warships works. You can't play World of Warships without anyone else playing with you. It's kind of pointless. So, having a solid game is always a good sign of, enjoyment. So aside from that, I really got nothing else to say. That's all I want to say about this series rework. I will try to get more of my opinion or my feelings about it once the live server gets the changes for the CV rework in 0.8.0, but expect it to be very big and a lot of people in the queue with CVs, or at least some large sum of people. Aside from that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time on World of Warships.